One night, in Chicago, a man noticed a woman hitchhiking in the rain. She was wearing a red dress and carrying only a small handbag, her face pale. Feeling sorry for her, the man stopped and offered her a ride. The woman said nothing. After a while, the man asked her, "Where do you want to go?" But she remained silent. As they drove, the man suddenly noticed that she was gone from the rearview mirror. Shocked, he pulled over and looked around. He quickly drove to a nearby house and knocked on the door. When the elderly woman answered, the man explained, "I dropped a woman off here, but she disappeared." The elderly woman looked at him and said, "That's impossible. She's my daughter, who went missing 10 years ago." One night, a young man was hitchhiking and got into a car with a driver who seemed friendly, but something felt off. The driver didn't speak much, only giving strange glances at the young man. Though the man was nervous, he decided to continue the ride. After a while, the driver started speeding up, and the young man became even more uneasy. When the driver began taking sharp turns down dark roads, the young man decided he had to get out. He managed to make an excuse and got the driver to stop, quickly running away from the car. The next morning, he read the news and saw a photo of the man he had just been in the car with. It was a serial killer who had been apprehended, and the young man realized he had barely escaped. In the 1970s, a man was on a long road trip in the USA when he saw a young woman hitchhiking. She looked completely normal, carrying a small backpack and wearing a casual outfit. Feeling sorry for her, he stopped and offered her a ride. The woman got into the car but remained silent the entire trip. After a while, she simply said, "You can drop me off here." The man pulled over near a wooded area, but something felt off. As the woman stepped out, he noticed dozens of people standing in the darkness, watching them. One of them stepped forward and asked, "Did you bring her?" Terrified, the man slammed the gas pedal and sped away. Later, he learned that a cult had been operating in that area, and multiple people had gone missing over the years. He realized he had almost become their next victim. In 1982, a Canadian man was driving late at night when he saw a hitchhiker on the side of the road. The man was wearing a hood that covered most of his face. Something about him seemed strange, but the driver decided to give him a ride anyway. Throughout the journey, the hitchhiker never spoke. The driver tried making small talk, but the man didn't respond. He just sat there, staring out of the window. After nearly an hour of silence, the hooded man suddenly whispered, "You don't need to take me home. I'm already here." The driver turned his head for a split second, but when he looked back, the hitchhiker was gone. The passenger seat was completely empty. The driver turned his head for a split second, but when he looked back, the hitchhiker was gone. The passenger seat was completely empty. Shaken, the man stopped the car and checked the back seat, but no one was there. The next day, he checked local news reports and discovered that a murder had taken place on that very road years ago. The victim, a man wearing a hood who had been killed while hitchhiking. In 1995, a woman was driving home late at night when she noticed a man hitchhiking on the side of the road. He seemed normal, though a bit nervous. She decided to give him a ride. The man got in and kept glancing at her from time to time. His hands were trembling, and he barely spoke. Something about him felt off, but she convinced herself it was nothing. A few minutes later, the man suddenly said, "Can you drop me off here?" She stopped the car near a gas station, and he quickly got out. The woman drove home, feeling relieved that the strange ride was over. The next morning, she turned on the news, and her blood ran cold. The man she had picked up was a notorious serial killer who had been caught just hours after she dropped him off. Even worse, the police found a knife and rope in his backpack. If she had hesitated for even a few minutes longer, she could have been his next victim.